By the year 884, the massive territories of East Francia, West Francia, and Italy were reunited under a single crown for the first time since the death of Charlemagne. This reunification happened through a series of strokes, hunting accidents, and the premature deaths of Charles's brothers and cousins. Charles the Fat became the master of Europe simply by outliving the rest of his family. The legitimacy of a 9th-century king rested on a specific exchange. The provinces provided taxes and loyalty, and in return, the crown provided the military force to protect those provinces from invasion. In 885, that exchange faced a massive challenge. The remnants of the Great Heathen Army, the same coalition of Viking raiders that had ravaged England, were now pushing into the heart of the Frankish interior. Charles now held total control over Europe's military resources, despite having never demonstrated the ability to lead an army in the field. In November 885, a Viking fleet sailed up the Seine River. They halted their advance outside the walls of Paris and demanded a massive tribute of silver to pass peacefully. Contemporary accounts recorded an invasion force of 700 ships and 30,000 raiders pushing deep into the French interior. At this time, Paris was a fortified island city that physically blocked the river. Two low-lying bridges, one made of wood and the other of stone, prevented any ships from sailing further up the Seine. Paris was the primary choke point. If these bridges held, the Viking fleet would be trapped. If they fell, the raiders would have access to the defenseless heart of the empire. Count Odo of Paris refused the Viking demands and prepared the city for a siege. He had only 200 men-at-arms to defend the entire island. The Vikings spent the winter battering the bridges with catapults and fire ships. They even attempted to mine the bridge supports, hoping to collapse the barricades into the river. As the months passed, the city began to starve. Disease broke out among the isolated defenders, and their numbers dwindled as the blockade prevented any supplies from reaching the island. Despite the losses, Odo held the bridges. He eventually slipped through the enemy lines to find the emperor and ask why the imperial reinforcements had not yet arrived. Odo had fulfilled his part of the defense. He had held the choke point for nearly a year, leaving the final outcome of the siege entirely in the hands of the central government. In October 886, Charles finally arrived at Montmartre with the full strength of the imperial army. He successfully encircled the Viking camp, trapping the invaders between his forces and the bridges of Paris. But as his soldiers waited for the command to attack the trapped raiders, Charles chose to negotiate instead. Charles agreed to pay the Vikings 700 livres of silver to leave the city and end the siege. He also granted the raiders permission to sail further upriver to pillage the region of Burgundy. Charles allowed this because Burgundy was currently in political revolt against his authority. In a single decision, the emperor had used a foreign invader to punish his own subjects. He had accepted taxes for a defense he refused to provide. By November 887, the regional leaders across Europe had seen enough. They withdrew their support from the crown, leaving the emperor without an army or a political base. Arnulf of Carinthia marched on the capital to take the throne. Charles was deposed without a single soldier rising to defend him. In the west, the nobility elected Count Odo as their new king, choosing a leader who had proven he could actually manage a defense. The empire fractured into 5 separate, independent regional kingdoms. The unified state that Charles had inherited just 3 years earlier was gone. The central government dissolved because its regional leaders no longer saw a reason for it to exist. When the crown stopped providing protection, its subjects stopped providing their loyalty.